Hello everyone and welcome back to the Halloween themed videos here on my channel. If you're new here, it would be amazing if you want to subscribe. I do lots and lots of different content based around atheism, science, creepy stuff like this. I'm branching into little bits of true crime. I do book reviews. I show my puppy quite often. She is a great girl. Her name is Kyrouac. She's beautiful. So if you're new here, please subscribe. If you have been here for a while, do you want to just check you're subscribed? Because I've been getting reports from people recently that YouTube subscribed them and that would really suck. So, just check that if you want. Yeah, thanks. Today we are continuing with the Halloween theme and I'm doing this really cool makeup look. I am trialing a look for Joker makeup that I'm doing on my friend Adam. Me, him, Becky, we're all going to the same party, so that's what these 3 makeup looks have been for, and I am their makeup guru for the night. God knows why they asked me, but there we go. Hopefully I'm going to be doing this Joker look that is inspired by the Joker from the Batman Arkham games, who is probably one of my favourite incarnations of Joker. They are fantastic games. If you've not played them, I really recommend them. And while we're doing this, we are going to be looking at some creepy stories of real messed up people, again from Reddit. This was quite a difficult video to kind of find content for, because hell of a lot of messed up stories out there, but I don't want to just be profiting and making entertainment out of other people's suffering. I was very conscious of that. When bad things have happened to real people, it's really important to not just take advantage of that and use that and turn it into entertainment for fun. So the stories I've tried to pick out are ones that I think we can learn something from, that are either going to give us some clues about kind of how to stay safe in the future, things to look out for in people to stay safe. They're stories that, whilst kind of creepy and entertaining in a Halloween sense, we also can learn something from and get something out of. It's not just exploiting someone else's tragedy, you know? Anyway, with that, let's jump into the creepiness. My car broke down on a deserted road. Called our version of AAA and was told it would be an hour. Okay, no problem. Went to sit in the car with flashes on. Short while later, another car comes up. Pulls up alongside and starts talking to me. Tells me he's a mechanic and he can fix it. Just have to go to his house first to get some tools. Really cool guy at that moment, just casual chit chat, what's up, what broke, etc. I tell him AAA is on the way and would help me shortly. Dude gets more pressing. Tells me to get in the car and just come along. It'll be quick. Just get in the back seat. I decline. He presses on more, telling me to get in. No thanks. Guy starts tweaking, pulling at his hair, slamming his hands on the steering wheel, swearing profusely. Still wants me to get in his car. Opens his car door and gets out. I lock mine from the inside and roll the window up. He tries to open my door, screaming at me just to let him in the car. At that moment, 2 more headlights pop up in the rearview mirror and AAA arrives. Guy quickly jumps in his car and speeds off. AAA guy turns his floodlights on to light up the area, gets out of the car and walks towards me, asks if everything is okay and if he should start switching the tyre. What tyre? The engine keeps cutting out. Tyre is fine, I replied. Turns out the guy had cut up both my passenger side tyres. Shudder at the thought of what else could have happened. Yeah, this freaks me out so much. I don't have a car, I can't drive, so this isn't something I've ever had to think about or deal with, but being a woman alone, traveling alone, I do worry about this sort of thing and always try and be safe. I think what we can learn from this kind of thing, when you're in a car, is just always keep your doors locked, please. Never leave the car, never get in a car with a stranger. That is a terrible idea. And if you're worried about things like this happening, always make sure you've got a phone with you that's fully charged. Keep a charger with you, keep a portable charger with you so you can call for help if you have to. Keep things like pepper spray with you. And just stay safe, please, because this kind of thing terrifies me and I don't want it to happen to any of you guys. This happened a long time ago. I had my dog in the back seat of my car, a 6-month-old German Shepherd, and we were driving home from a dog training class. It was dark and in an area with no streetlights. My car starts spluttering and I knew from experience that the fuel filter was having an issue and that if I could just pull over for a few minutes, it would get better and I could make it home. This black car drives by, slows, and turns around and drives by again. Turns around and pulls right in front of my car. I lock all the doors. Smart person. He comes to my car and tries to convince me to get in his car so he could take me to a phone. This was before I had a cell phone. I tell him no and that my car will be fine in a few minutes. He gets very persistent in trying to get me out the car. He tries to open my door, and that's when my dog, who had just recently found her big girl voice, lunged at the window from the back seat and did that German Shepherd, don't mess with my human bark. The guy pulls his hands up and backed away, got into his car and left. From that day on, anytime I went on a long trip or knew I'd be out alone after dark, my dog went with me. I believe she saved my life that night. This one I wanted to include just because it's a dog being a total good girl. I gotta say, I do always feel so much safer when Kyra's with me because, you know, I know she's gonna look after me. I know she's my girl. I know she's my protector. We had a really creepy moment the other night when, like, well, obviously we were home alone and we were in bed, and it must have been about 2 a.m. and I couldn't sleep, so I was up reading, and Kyra's like snoring, passed out next to me, snuggled up to me, and there was a knock at my front door, and I was like, what the hell? And immediately Kyra jumps up, runs into the hallway, and she lets out this proper deep, grisly bark. And like, Kyra never barks. That is probably only maybe like the 7th bark I've heard from her in the 18 months since I adopted her. So when she barks, it means something. And she's like a deep bark, and then she just stands in the hallway just growling at the front door. And I was like, what the hell is this? And like, I sneak over to the front door and like I look through the little spy hole, and there's just this man stood outside in my hallway, and then he knocks again, and I'm like, nope. I'm like, I'm not opening the door. It's 2 a.m. There's a strange man outside. God knows what he wants. And I was a little bit terrified. So I just moved some furniture in front of the door and kind of like kept Kyra with me until he went away. Looking back, logically, he was probably just like a food delivery guy who got the wrong house, or someone looking for a friend or something like that. But it was terrifying at 2 a.m. being a woman alone, having a strange man knocking on your front door. So I'm so happy I had Kyra with me because she kept me safe, she made me feel safe, and I knew if anything would have happened, she would have protected me, you know? My mum said she didn't like her husband's friend because his wife was very subdued around him and would look at the ground and barely talk. He would listen to women talk and then argue against their points even if he agreed with them, would roll his eyes or make a scoffing noise. He'd touch their shoulders or arms constantly, and he just gave her the creeps. Then he got arrested for serial rape and murders through DNA evidence. This story I included because, despite being horrific, I think it's a really important kind of tale in trusting your gut instincts about someone. Most people are very good at picking up on subconscious clues about people's behaviour, and I feel like if you have a gut feeling about someone, trust it. The kind of telltale signs in this case, the fact that his wife was subdued around him, he was picking fights with women, that sort of thing, and kind of like being a little bit creepy and touchy-feely, you know? They aren't good signs. It's probably a sign that he was abusing his wife, whether that was verbally, physically, emotionally, sexually, anything. And the fact that he wouldn't listen to women just screams kind of misogynist, you know? So what I would say is that it's very important to kind of like understand body language and what it's telling you, and just trust your gut with people. The next story comes from a thread about psychologists and like counselors and people like that seeing patients and like when it really freaked them out and stuff. And this next story scares me so much. Saw a new client for our first session at my home practice. We seemed to click and work together fine. He said he wanted to work through some trauma he'd experienced when he was physically attacked by a previous psychologist. Hearing about terrible psychologists always riles me up, so I was immediately on his side. When I talked with my supervisor about the case a week later, she asked me his full name, which never happened, so I was weirded out immediately. She googled the name then and there and wordlessly handed me her iPad. It was full of news articles about this client and his attacks on psychologists in my local area. I obviously did not see him again, but I was nervous for ages because he knew where I lived. This is terrifying. The idea of like potentially like unhinged or scary or creepy people finding out where you live and like being able to come there. Like, your house is your safe space, and knowing that someone potentially dangerous who wants to hurt me could find out where I live terrifies me. I also think it's important that if you do have a job like that, and you have to have a job like that, always do whatever background checks you can on the people coming into your home. Like, even if it's just Googling them or whatever, just try and stay safe and don't just let anyone into your house. The next one is a little bit longer than the other stories, but it's one that freaks me out so much. And I think what freaks me out from this is that I'm not really sure what we can learn from this one. You'll see what I mean. When I was a kid, we'd go down to these beach cabins in Maryland, right by Chesapeake. They were small and rustic ordeals with basic comforts, nothing fancy like TVs or air conditioning. 2 bedrooms and a cot in the kitchen, and my siblings and I rotated on the cot so no one got too sore from it. A small tradition was that my mum and I would have a hot cup of tea before bed, in our summer jammies, and just our way of relaxing while everyone else went off to read or listen to music. Well, one night, I was settling onto the cot when she picked up the tea kettle to fill it. Out the corner of my eye, I see her flinch, then say in a steady voice, "What are you doing there?" My head whipped over to the kitchenette to see her looking out the window, and she jumped back and started screaming for my father. Somehow, he knew stuff was getting real, ran from the back bedroom and barely paused to see my mum point towards the left side of the house. He burst out the door and towards the left of the cabin. I'll be the first to admit I ran and baseball slid under my parents' bed, because damn it, I was 10 and that's what kids do when they're terrified. I still remember the smell of the old wood and the feel of my teddy bear shielding me from whatever hell was happening. The rest of the story is an amalgamation of what I heard and what my family filled it in for me. My father managed to tackle the guy that had been peeping into our kitchen window. He put him in an elbow lock face down on the ground, my brother standing sentinel over both of them, while my mum ran to get the cell phone we'd bought just 2 weeks earlier. This was in 95, when those suckers had cords and everything. While my mum called 911, I remember hearing the guy talking. He was saying things like, "The Ouija board effing told me. I want the devil to suck my effing brains out. Satan is in cabin 10. I have to get to cabin 10. We were in cabin 3, over a mile and a half from where he apparently intended to meet the devil. My dad kept a grip on him for probably a good 15 minutes until the cops showed up. The first thing out of one's mouth was, "Jamie, when'd they let you out?" He'd been released from jail just 2 weeks earlier, for arson. You know where he was standing when my mum was at the sink in the kitchen? Right beside the propane tank. Yeah, this one freaks me out, because in this case, the family did nothing wrong. There was nothing they could have done to change this. It was just good luck that they saw him when they did. This is just the kind of story of an unhinged person doing something terrifying, and there's nothing you can do to stop them in those cases, unless you catch it at the right moment. And that's why I find it so scary. But anyway, let me know down in the comments, what would you have done in that situation? What do you think we can learn from it? Are there any ways like this where you could have kept yourself safer or prepared a little easier? I don't know. What can we learn from this story? Let me know down in the comments. But thank you for listening today. I appreciate you guys so much, and I'll see you again soon.